welcome, and/or afternoon. Welcome to the webinar. I am Mary Catherine Campbell with Plug in America, and Mary Lunetta will also be speaking. She is with the Sierra Club. So we're going to talk a little bit first today about social media and earned media. We have a hashtag that we'd like all of you to use on all of your social media. First and foremost, though, we'd like you to use the website to register your event and to register attendees and solicit volunteers. Use the website also to download some helpful materials, including press advisories and press releases. And visit us and like us on Facebook and Twitter at Nat Drive Electric Week and on Instagram at National Drive Electric Week. And please, again, use the hashtags NDEW2016 or NDU2016 and hashtag Drive Electric, and then we'll be able to track the social media progress of all of our collective work. We have more than 120 city captains now signed up, and we're looking to break the record of last year of having more than 196 cities that are involved with National Drive Electric Week. And to that end, and kind of to push on social media the momentum and the feeling of success and festivity here, we want to encourage you to work with your local reporters and find out early on as you possibly can what makes your event unique, what's different about it. Is there something already going on in the news in your local community that you might be able to tie in, and think hard about how you can talk to your local editors about what is related to your work on National Drive Electric Week and electric vehicles. And then think a little bit about how your audience sees what you're thinking about, what you're writing about, whether it has to do with local, community events or other kinds of charging stations or other related events in your world. And you should look for stories that dispel myths about vehicles. We all know, we're all familiar with the myth that maybe the range isn't long enough, or there are other kinds of elements of electric vehicles that people may mistakenly understand. And you can reach new demographics that way by dispelling myths and engaging with people using media. And again, we're saying look for a way to tie in other related events. If there's a new charging station nearby, we'll talk a little bit later about how to engage with local elected officials and see how maybe your city council member or local member of Congress might be able to help proclaim that it's National Drive Electric Week in your small town. But make sure that you're thinking about your audience whenever you're working on developing messaging. You want to make sure that you're tying in things that are relevant. And then, of course, you want the hooks for people. You want to invite local dignitaries or celebrities or other respected community members who will have their own networks of folks who they would invite to events. So whenever you have the opportunity, make sure that you're thinking locally. Well, this is a big national program, but you're thinking locally about what would appeal to your own folks nearby in your neighborhood. And we talk a little bit here about optics matter. You want to consider the fact that whatever your local affiliate is, if you're with a Clean Cities Network or you're with a local nonprofit or you're simply an EV owner and enthusiast who's interested in networking with your business, that the brand is front and center, and it's National Drive Electric Week for a reason. We have more than 130,000 folks who participated last year. We're looking really to break that record this year, so we could get as many as 200,000, maybe even 250,000 people enthusiastic and involved this year. So another thing you want to do is make sure that you turn over every possible stone when it comes to inviting folks, and make sure that you have a packed house. You want to think about engaged crowd, an enthusiastic crowd, and there are lots of city captains who've done this years and years in a row, who've put together really fun events with music, with food, with all kinds of kind of festive festival atmospheres that kind of turn this educational event into a party, and that is also appealing to media, to cameras, and to reporters who want to report on what's going on in their world. And to that end, you want to make sure that you are considering as diverse an audience as you possibly can. There are tons of people out there who are involved with electric vehicles, and lots of women, for example, making purchasing decisions in households. So, people of color and others who should be engaged and need to be engaged, and you want to make sure that everybody has a welcoming kind of atmosphere. And when you do all of that and you make that perfect elixir or formula, then you're going to get compelling media coverage of your event. So there's some simple rules of engagement. You want to kind of think a little bit small, think locally, think about your local reporters. You can target folks by going onto Google. Look at, you can even set up media alerts for your local newspapers or television stations, excuse me, and check out reporters that have covered these types of issues in the past. That could include environmental reporters, business reporters, automotive, and other folks who have covered this stuff or expressed an interest in it, climate change or other solutions to climate change. There are also, there's a huge universe of bloggers out there now, and blogs are even more increasingly becoming influential when it comes to what reporters themselves are covering. Even if they're not authoring blogs themselves, they might rely on local bloggers to give them a heads up about what's going on in their neighborhood. So don't forget to include them. We have on the website updated media advisories for 2016. The difference between, just to give a primer for anybody who's not familiar, the difference between a media advisory or a press advisory and a press release is you use a press advisory to inform media about an upcoming event that you're inviting them to, and that goes out a couple days before, two or 3 days before the event. And a press release is more media and has more content in it. So use an media advisory to invite media and you keep it very brief, and then use a press release to elucidate or elaborate on what your messages are, who's speaking, what vehicles will be there, what kind of interesting quotes you might get from attendees or from dignitaries that you're inviting. Make sure you always use a clear and concise subject line when you're trying to reach out to reporters. Remember, even the smallest local mom-and-pop reporter shop in a patch in a small town may receive a few hundred emails a day. So you want to make sure that you're really reaching out to them and getting the most concise and punchy introduction and getting your foot in the door in a way that's compelling right off the bat. Email these folks individually or use the BCC line, the blind CC line. Please don't CC reporters or address more than one reporter in the to line or the CC line. And I'll tell you why. It makes the reporter feel like they're not getting the special attention that they need, and it also kind of feels like when you're a reporter and you see 500 other reporters CC'd, that they're not going to get any kind of exclusive insights into this event, and someone else will cover it. So you want to just make sure that that's just like a really simple rule of thumb when you're engaging with reporters. Don't make them feel like a huge pack of people that will follow you. Also, avoid exclamation points and other kind of punchy language. You want to keep it fun and friendly, but you definitely also want to keep it professional, because lots of times when you write a compelling press release, for example, sometimes reporters do very little work on them and they can edit them very simply and then recite them word for word or as is in their publication. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, it looks as professional as possible. Again, keep it short and simple. do what you can to make it eye-catching. The pyramid style is also another simple rule of thumb. There's also a concept of burying your lead. You don't want to do that. You don't want to make a reporter who is looking at 500 other press releases or media advisories root down into the bottom of an email or a press release to see what exactly the story hook is. So put that front and center and at the top. And then we encourage you to first send in the BCC line or individually to reporters your press advisories or press releases, and then follow up with a phone call. Don't call them first and then email them. The reason for a phone call is just to follow up, make sure that they got it. It's kind of called a pitch. You don't necessarily need to go into tremendous amounts of details on the phone, but you do want to confirm and let them know that you're serious about this, and this will be a fun event, and it would be great to get on their docket for covering the event. So this is when a generalization about when you can should start thinking about sending your media advisories and press releases. So we're recommending a 3 to 4 week lead time on Save the Dates. Save the Dates is just a simple opportunity for you to get on the editorial calendar for really busy editors who have 1,000 other things that they're thinking about. So if your event is on September 12th or a weekend or whatever, you could send a Save the Date ahead of time and say September 12th we'll have a few hundred people, we'll have a band, we'll have tons of cars at a parade, maybe a ride and drive, food, whatever, and there will be a fun festival atmosphere about this amazing technology that is gaining momentum across the U.S. and in our community. And then don't forget to, whatever you can do to tie in a local hook or relevant messaging point. That would be great. And then next, 1 to 2 weeks out, you want to send the advisory. Maybe, if you're talking to a local television station, that kind of lead time will help them be able to confirm that there will be cameras available. And you want to make sure that you mention whatever is visually compelling for people, for the reporters to want to come out and visit. And then a day or two before, just send a reminder and say, don't forget, on September 12th, we're going to have 20 cars and a ride and drive and a band, all this kind of fun stuff. So, and we'll have dignitaries and local spokespeople available to talk to reporters, so you have all your ducks in a row. This is a simple example of a media alert and an advisory template, and these are available on the website at driveelectricweek.org under resources. You can click on that and find your media templates, and you can simply plug in your own information. Later on, when Mary talks a little bit about engaging with your elected officials, you'll see here this is an example with Representative Markey from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as well as another dignitary, the ED of Sierra Club, who attended an event. So you want to make sure that you engage with when you're dealing with local elected officials, and I'll let Mary elaborate on that a little bit more later, that you also engage with, that you'll be talking to, and I'm assuming engaging with their press officials too, so they can help get the word out and spread out that your city council member is going to be on site, and maybe there might be a ribbon cutting ceremony or some other kind of interesting visual that you want to include. You also, again, want to keep these very brief and highlight whatever kind of interesting visuals or speakers that might be in attendance. So on the day of the event, you want to, it's not actually the day of, by the time you've lined up your day, you want to make sure that you've identified the spokespeople well in advance. You want to make sure that if you are going to have local dignitaries or other experts that will be able to speak with reporters on camera or on the record, that you confirm that ahead of time and that they'll be available on site. You will also want to, and this has been a suggestion that I've heard a few times, I think it's really a good one. If you have the opportunity, if you're going to have a ride and drive, if you're going to have vehicles on the site, if you can give reporters a preview or a heads-up ride and drive, that would be fantastic. Offering them the opportunity to kind of get ahead of a curve is always beneficial. So, and if you are holding a ride and drive and you have not been able to arrange a preview ride and drive or a preview tour for the folks in the media, make sure that if you have a lineup, and bless you if you do, you have a huge line for people waiting in line for a ride and drive, make sure that the media and dignitaries don't have to stand in it. Media lots of time will be working at the last minute on deadlines, so if you're fortunate enough to have a camera crew, you don't want them kind of lingering or loitering around in line. You want to kind of give them VIP status and make sure that they can capture all the images and conversations and interviews with people that they can, so that they can use that in their broadcast. Also, if you have an opportunity, you should think about assigning someone, probably not you if you're the city captain, to work on high-resolution photos and videos. That's something that you might even be able to use to share with local media, and it's definitely something that we'd like to see on the website. Make sure that you give proper credit for photography. Also, after the event is over, we encourage you to fill out your event report right away and upload as much as you can in terms of artwork, videos, other stuff that's related with the proper hashtags. And then you would want to send out a press release of the day off so that you're sure that you get coverage. And afterwards, follow up and thank the media who attended, and make sure that you, give them their props and a little bit of love. And then the last reminder is, if you have waivers available for ride and drives and for art or anything else you need, make sure you have those on hand. This is an example of a press release, and again, these are available for download. You can customize them as you need to. This example isn't really an example in that it's just a template, so it kind of gives you reminders. If you look at each one, you'll see this is where you put your name, this is where you put the date. You should make your title succinct, and your subtitle should also be succinct but catchy. Don't ever bury your lead. So you want to assume that reporters are so busy and so flustered that they would be able to tell the story in the first sentence and want to feel like they're covering it. And frankly, you're doing a lot of the legwork for them so that they don't have to write from scratch or collect important information from scratch. So think about your press release as a way to get the entire story out in a compelling and as they call it, in a hooky way, so that readers are drawn in. We also encourage the use of letters to the editor and op-eds. Make sure that when you do that, you include your the National Drive Electric Week website, and the contact information would be available to reporters so that they are able to go and see what else is going on in terms of National Drive Electric Week. Again, use unique content and look for personal hooks and other testimonials from riding drivers or from EV enthusiasts to make it more compelling for reporters. Always be positive and action focused. This is just true for life too, isn't it? I mean, it's short. We got to be positive and try to get as much done as we can. So, if you're dispelling a myth, you don't want to come off as curmudgeonly or in an ultra authoritative or officious way. You want to say, oh, well, that's not necessarily true. What we're looking at here is, an electric vehicle that can go 80 miles, and most people in our neighborhood only drive 10 miles for their commutes. So they work in common everyday life, and the momentum is on our side. So we're looking for more and more EV owners in our neighborhood and EV drivers in our neighborhoods to clean the air and to help the environment. For letters and op-eds specifically, you want to keep them concise. A letter would be shorter and most likely in response to another article that has appeared in the paper. So if you're writing in response to, I don't know, an oil company or something else that is speaking negatively about electric vehicles, you spin that, be positive, and say, I've driven an electric vehicle for how many years, and this is what we found, and I commute back and forth and pick up the kids, and keep it positive, keep it personal, and keep it short. You usually only have a week or two ahead of the event to get that placed, and you kind of, when you're writing a letter to the editor, you also want to make sure that if it's related to an existing article that you get it in pretty quickly after that. In an op-ed, that's different. An opinion editorial takes a little bit of time to place too, and it takes them a little bit more effort. It's always more successful if you manage, if you're not one yourself, if you manage to get another signatory who is an authority or a local community leader or someone else. If you get a co-signer on that, that would be great. Those are also supposed to be concise. They can be a little bit longer, but we don't recommend that they're longer than 700 words. And again, remain positive, action-focused, and forward-looking. So shifting gears a little bit over to the social media side, I'm sure everybody's aware on Facebook where there are numbers of folks who have the opportunity to play with Facebook all day long, and there are others who don't. We've done some of that legwork for you, so you don't have to. Of all of the current social media that's not been a flash in the pan or that is not on the cutting edge right now, Facebook has the most evenly spaced demographics in terms of ages, age ranges, and so lots of folks, even if they're on many other platforms, they use it kind of as their home base for finding out about information, engaging on different stories. We have found, and experts greater than us have found, that the younger demographics are fleeing from Facebook a little bit. So we want to make sure that we're not ignoring the other platforms such as Instagram, but Facebook is still a primary landing spot for lots of folks, and we encourage you to make sure that you promote your event on Facebook. You could use it a few times a day without pestering people, without overloading people's feeds. So we recommend you do that. There's a live video feature, which is fairly new. I think it's only 3 or 4 months old. We're finding it's really super popular. The other benefit of the live video feature is that it will record your video, so it will be seen by folks who are not able to log in or tune in right at the moment that you're presenting it, like another platform, Periscope, which doesn't necessarily do that. That's a live video stream that can go around the world, but you don't record your videos that way. The other beauty of it is that you can unlimited tag on photos, so there's no character limit. Obviously, the added bonus is Facebook. You can use it to promote your events. Your Twitter users are Twitter's still going strong. The demographics of that are a little bit different than Facebook. About half the people who use it are under 34 years of age. The majority are college educated. On Twitter, as many of you are aware, I'm sure, and if you're not, you should be. You can never tweet too many times, but you have to be concise because there's a 140 character limit. But we still recommend not going too hog wild, but rather look for quality links. Always drag folks to your registration page at Drive Electric Week, and look for quality hooks on there too. So the hashtags you want to use are hashtag NDO 2016 and hashtag Drive Electric. You can also, go out of your way to kind of address and thank folks who will be engaged and involved. If you've invited your local city council person, they have a Twitter handle. A few days ahead of time, you could thank Councilman Smith for showing up, and looking forward to seeing Councilman Smith at our ENDU event on Tuesday. We'll let him drive our Tesla, something like that. The added bonus is that, many people have seen, Twitter kind of is the go-to place now for breaking news for folks. So reporters are also using it for background research, which I still find kind of amusing. But they will search on hashtags for Twitter and find interesting story angles for themselves. So it's not only just for breaking news anymore, but policymakers and even presidential candidates are using it as their primary avenue to reach out to people. So Instagram, as I mentioned, is more of a youth-driven audience. Only 13% of the folks who use Instagram with regularity are over 34. Women, African Americans, Latinos are much more likely to use Instagram now. And that's good. I mean, it's important. The beauty of Instagram is the videos and the photo tagging. You can tell 1,000 words, and we're covering with National Drive Electric Week very visually appealing subject matter. So this is a perfect marriage between trying to reach diverse audiences and having a really neat visual photos or videos that we can share with folks. So use Instagram as early and as often as you'd like. Make sure that you use as many hashtags as you like, and include the ENDU 2016 and Drive Electric hashtags whenever you can there. And then you can also use local hashtags. So if you're having it catered, or you have a local sponsor, a car dealer, or someone else locally who's sponsoring it. I know a lot of the insurance companies and others are willing to sponsor. So if you do that, you can hashtag them as well, and you can never overdo it on Twitter, on Instagram, excuse me, when it comes to hashtagging. A little bonus piece here, there's a really awesome and free app which makes me very happy called Hyperlapse. It's super cool. You can use it to film video over time, and then it speeds it up, so you can post, maybe the length of you have someone assigned to do your social media or record everything on an iPhone or a Droid phone or whatever. You can have them upload it, use Hyperlapse to condense the entire event into a 30-second video that you can then post to Instagram. And Boomerang is another similar type of free app that you can use. So that'll be it for me for the moment. If we can hear from Mary Lunetta from Sierra Club for a few minutes about engaging with politicos, we'll circle back towards the end and answer some questions. Mary?
This is Mary Lunetta of the Sierra Club. I'm the campaign representative for the Electric Vehicles Initiative, and I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about engaging with elected officials and state agencies or local agencies, and really bringing them in to be an integral part of your ENDU event, and some details about how to, or some examples on how to engage with them in certain events, and then I'll list a few things for you to keep in mind for your ENDU event day. So moving into the question of why would you want to engage with elected officials or agencies, the main reason is that these agencies and these elected officials and these government offices are actually doing a lot of really cool work around electric vehicles adoptions and charging infrastructure. Either they're doing really great things or have done really great things, or they have really cool plans for in the near future. So this is a good time to do a little bit of homework and some research to see what's happening in your local state or in your local city, and what might be planned. And if there's nothing that's really coming up right away for you when you do Google searches, definitely reach out and make a couple phone calls to your local agencies. So just to list a few examples of who you could reach out to, Some good ones are the mayor's office, the city council. So often the city council has a lot of plans in place. So you can reach out to the council in general or individual members that you may know might be more politically sympathetic to this. You can also reach out to the governor's office. Utility companies are a good one as well. For example, here in San Diego, I'm calling you all from San Diego where I live. San Diego recently pledged that PG&E, the local utility company, is going to be putting in place 3,500 charging stations throughout the county over the next year. And this is a really huge, exciting deal. And so that's one example of how a utility company is starting to start to push the widespread EV adoption. The Department of Energy, so these are state and local, by the way. So the Department of Energy is often doing some really cool work around electric vehicles or charging infrastructure. Maybe they're adopting policies or proposing policies. The Department of Environmental Protection, also known as the Department of Environmental Conservation, had different words for different states. The Department of Transportation is another really good one. And candidates who are running for office. This is an election year. So maybe do some homework on who are some local people that are running for local offices in your state or your city, and learn about their platform and take this time to ask them about what they have to say about electric vehicle adoption. And if you feel like they would be a good person to highlight at your Indue event, certainly give them an invitation to attend or to speak. So, excuse me. So this is also a really good opportunity. The reason why we also want to engage with our elected officials and our state agencies is because the media will pick up on it. If knowing that these individuals or these agencies will be present at the event will perk their ears, and they'll be more likely to cover your event and write about it and also post about it on social media. It's also a really good opportunity to build long-term relationships with these agencies and these offices and these individuals that are connected to the actual change happening at the grass top level. It's a really good opportunity to begin conversations for the future. So if you can reach out and establish these conversations and you learn down the line that something not great is happening in your state legislature, you have a door now for conversation, and you can start to citizen lobby them or send an email or learn more about something or have a conversation where you want to propose a new policy. This is truly how change happens in the world, especially in the smaller regions. And so really keep this in mind, that this is your opportunity to make larger impact over time just by extending a hand and an invitation to be at the event. So we can move on to the how of how this would go about. So there's different ways for agencies and elected officials to get involved in an Indue event. One cool way is you can request that they establish a proclamation. So, announcing that particular day of National Drive Electric Day or National Drive Electric Week for that region. And there's sample proclamations on the Indue website. So if you go to our resources page and you scroll all the way down, very down to the very bottom, you'll see a link, and you can use that example to tailor however you like. But that is that's a resource that's available to everyone. You can also request that these agencies are able to table. So even if a particular elected official is not available to speak, they often have staffers that can be there and represent the office, or they can provide literature for more information on different programs that they might have, and they can have a table with a banner, and their presence can still be there. It'll still be a good media hook and good photo opportunity, and also put your foot in the door to continue conversations with their office. So that's another way for them to get involved. Another way for them to get involved is displaying their electric vehicle fleet. There's an increasing amount of city and state agencies that are adopting electric vehicles for their government fleet. For example, in Los Angeles, last year at their Indue event, they had like 3 or 4 LAPD cruisers on display, and they had Teslas and BMWs, and they were police cars. And it was really an amazing opportunity to check out these cars and talk with the officers who drive them, and learn more about what the plans are for the city to adopt more EV fleets. So that's one example. And we don't always know when our city officials have electric vehicles in their fleet. Sometimes they announce it, sometimes they don't. So that's another area for probing and research, learning if your local city officials or agencies have electric vehicles in their fleet. And of course, the main reason to, or the one main reason to loop in elected officials or candidates or agencies is to invite them to speak, to speak about the successes that we should all be proud of or have happened in the region, or to explain what plans are in place for in the future. So for the next slide, or the next portion, talking about when to do this, when to engage with these politicos. The time is now, right now. Definitely get on this right away because their calendars fill up very quickly. They are very busy people, whether you're a candidate or you're an elected official already. They have a lot to do. So if you can get in right now and just put that request in, you can figure out the details later. So don't feel like you need to have all of your ducks in a row before you make the ask to them. Really just feel confident letting them know the bare minimum of the event, describe the event to them and what the overall idea is. But you don't have to have all of the other speakers in place or all of the other tables in place. Don't get concerned about having everything perfect before you extend the invitation, because really the invitation should go out immediately so that they can put you in the calendar and commit to being there. Most offices really do need advance notice, so having that notice be as advanced as possible is only to your benefit. And same with candidates. So if you have any candidates in mind, definitely keep this time crunch at the forefront of your planning. So I'll give a few examples of some cities recently that have looped in elected officials. There was a Durham, New Hampshire event last year. They had a ribbon cutting ceremony for new downtown charging stations that they revealed and started up. They were public and for the public use, and so they had the mayor there. They had the Department of Environmental Services. They were there. Some members of the local town council were there, and then also some representatives from the University of New Hampshire. So it was a well-represented event, and they had a ribbon-cutting ceremony. It was a great media opportunity, lots of good photos, and good proclamations also. There was another event that happened in Seattle last year, I believe. It might have been the year before, actually, where the city had recently added 35 Nissan Leafs to their city fleet, and they were displaying a few of them. The mayor also got to speak, and so local citizens got to check out the local city fleet. So that was pretty cool. A few key reminders. A few of these have been mentioned already in the call, but it's good to say it again so that we don't forget. It's really important that on the day of the event, you're clear on who will be introducing the elected officials or the candidates or the agency representatives. Basically, anyone who's going to be speaking at your event, have it very clear who is the person that's going to be introducing them and who is the person that will be physically receiving the proclamation, who is the person that's going to be cutting the ribbon. These are all very important details that sometimes you forget are important, or that you forget to assign that job to a particular person. So keep those things in mind. Also, we all have phones, smartphones, and we all take photos, but it's also a really good idea to have one or two people that are designated photo takers, and even better if they're also the social media posters. I don't know what other name that could be, but the person who is assigned to tweet and post on Facebook. So live tweeting is a really big cool thing that was mentioned earlier, and so having that person also be the photo taker, our phones take really good photos these days. They can also just use the photos that are in their camera and their camera roll and upload it to the social media sites. And so having one person really be concerned about getting the good shots, and especially being able to maybe find a spot to do an aerial photo. We find that aerial photos for indie events are awesome, but also rare because not too many people think about going in a high spot. So, but it makes a great photo opportunity. So keep that in mind too. So it's really good to have one person designated to do that, and then also of course use the hashtag #InDue2016, and so yeah, just keeping in mind who will be doing what, and making sure that you have all of those ducks in a row, so that you as the event organizer are able to do whatever it is that you need to do, knowing that those things are taken care of. Yeah, so I think that pretty much concludes my portion of covering the political aspect. I'll hand it back over to you, MK.
Great. And then I'm going to hand it right back to you because I've got one question for you right off the bat.
Sure.
So how do you know who you're going to invite in terms of elected officials? What makes a good target, and how would a city captain go about figuring out who to invite?
Okay, so that's a really good question, and the answer is going to be different for every state or every city because different agencies and different elected officials are doing different things. So I would suggest doing a quick bit of homework. Google your city or your state with electric vehicle policy, or you could also include charging infrastructure as one of your search terms and see what comes up. And when you start to read some of the articles, yeah, and I'd filter it by news articles too maybe, but also visit the websites of your individual utilities or mayors or government, city council or governor's office, and kind of learn what is happening or has happened or is in place to happen. And then based on that, make a quick list of who the best people to reach out to. So oftentimes there's a scheduler for a certain elected official. You'd want to reach out to them and ask them if you could put something on the person's calendar. And you would want to do an email first. This was mentioned earlier, so definitely do an email first so that there's a paper trail they can refer to when you call later to follow up if you don't hear back right away. I would give a few days between the time that you sent the email to when you follow up. And so that's something to keep in mind. So just kind of do your homework to see who are the individual key players in your area, because everyone's doing a little different. Every region's doing it a little different.
Great. And let me, before I move on to another question specifically about media, ask you, are there any other dignitaries or agencies that people should be looking at besides elected officials? Like how do you know which agencies to target, like clean air agencies or others?
Well, when it comes to electric vehicles, it's kind of this interesting multifaceted issue. So there's multiple departments that are involved in electric vehicle adoption and policies. So the main ones are typically the Department of Energy, the Department of Environmental Protection or Conservation, the Department of Transportation, and then those are all usually the governor's office for the state. So they keep a pretty good, clear handle on what's going on. But then again, there's also elected officials who, like in certain legislatures, there are champions of electric vehicles who have pushed through policies before or have passed policies, or maybe someone who might be interested in future passing or maybe in the future defeating something that is anti-EV. So doing your homework to kind of see who those players are will be really helpful in knowing who to reach out to. Did they answer your question, MK?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Mary.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm sorry. The other thing I just wanted to mention, and I forgot to earlier, was that the Sierra Club, we keep a pretty clear handle on who those people are. We sometimes we miss them because we're not omnipresent, but we try to be. So if you are finding that you're hitting a brick wall or you're not kind of sure who to reach out to despite your efforts, you're welcome to give me a call or send me an email, and I can figure out some of that for you. And then also, if in your media outreach, if you're hitting a brick wall or just would like some guidance, we carefully track pretty much every news article that mentions electric vehicles on the national scale and at the state level. So we know we keep track of who the individuals are, the individual reporters are that are writing on these issues. We have usually their name if there is a name. Sometimes it's just staff, but we can at least let you know what periodical it was that posted about electric vehicles, and we can give you that information for you to kind of get started on creating an outreach plan to the media. So you can also reach out to me for that information.
That's great. And actually, Mary, I did want to mention that Gina we'd be remiss in not mentioning the fact that Sierra Club has given a lot of support to city captains in the past when it comes to reaching out to reporters and has provided really great and robust and accurate, which are brilliant, accurate lists of reporters that care about this stuff. So definitely take advantage of the fact that Sierra Club is super generous with those contacts whenever you have the opportunity. And that kind of parlays into the next question, which was, how do you know which journalists to pitch to? And it, just elaborate a little bit on that. The Google alert system is super helpful, and if you kind of combine forces with the Sierra Club's knowledge and the fact that Google will help you pinpoint who's covered this stuff in the past, you should be able to pinpoint who in your area is an interested journalist, and the same goes for the interested elected officials and others who you'll be inviting to speak or to present. So it takes a little bit of homework, a little bit of legwork, but when you are targeting the right reporters, with the right message, and this will be the right message, you're going to be successful and you're going to get folks out to cover these events. So the last question was also about, someone asked this question last time too, what if the reporter's cranky? Yeah, that happens sometimes. If you're a reporter, if you can imagine culling through 500 press releases in a morning and fielding, 10 or 20 or 30 pitch calls before you get through your first cup of coffee, you might run into an occasional cranky reporter. So, keep in mind that they have their own crosses to bear too. So they're in a place where they're surviving a flood of calls and interest. So be persistent and be friendly and be knowledgeable. But if you feel like there's a reporter who is super annoyed or is not going to be interested, you can move on to the next one. You don't have to feel like you have to get every single possible person on the hook to show up. So yeah, don't worry when people get cranky. You can kind of let that wash over you and move on to the next challenge. I had a great suggestion from one of the attendees here, that when I mentioned Hyperlapse, which is the kind of fun video software that allows you to make a really short, succinct video for free. There's a long URL that I can share. I'll probably use that on the Google groups, and I encourage all of you to use that Google group. If you're not already subscribed, you should be, and you can let me know, Mary Catherine at Plugin America, MK Campbell at Plugin America, and we'll make sure that you're a member of that Google group. There are some good questions this morning about some other tips and tricks that people were looking for to engage with ambassador schools, and the same goes for tips and tricks on how to help each other out with stuff like this. The free app I will post when we hang up on this call to the Google group, so you guys can download that from this URL that I will be posting. I don't see any other questions. So I'd like to wrap up by inviting you to our next webinar. That will be held on July 22nd at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern Time. The subject of that will be how to deal with dealers and how to put on a successful ride and drive, or best practices for a great ride and drive. I think that'll be a great segue into some of your planning, and hopefully will help you get the most out of the ride and drive segment of your event. If you are able to host one, everybody knows, those of us who love EVs, that once you get to drive one, that's what really sells the deal for you. So the more folks you get at your National Drive Electric Week event behind the wheel, the better. So this is it, and that especially goes, frankly, from my PR hat. For the media folks who've never driven one before, they really get excited and then become converts themselves. So thanks again to Mary for coming, and thanks for everybody who engaged and had questions this morning. This webinar will be recorded. We may broadcast this webinar or the webinar that we held last week. I'm not sure which yet, but you'll definitely have access to that, and you can always contact us through the website if you have additional questions. And we really hope to see you on July 22nd at the webinar on best practices for ride and drive and how to deal with car dealers. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks, Mary. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, MK. Thanks, everyone. Bye.